Okay, this morning we want to welcome everyone, and I decided to go old school, so we're going to do some good old-fashioned country grits with some shrimp and some cheese, and I'm going to walk you through the preparation here. First things first, I am showing you my good old-fashioned black skillet that I brought back from my grandmother's in Louisiana when she passed away in 1991. And this skillet has got to be, I don't know, 100 years old. It's perfect. I've got a set of them. I've got about 4 or 5 that are like family heirlooms. But this bad boy here will cook anything in sight. And those of you that are used to cooking, and cooking especially country style with black skillets, you just simply cannot beat the outcome. Okay, so then let's kind of walk through the products that I'm going to be using. So I was in DC, and the new African American Museum opened up, and my good friend James had mentioned to me, maybe 6 months ago, that he was in the new Sweet Home Cafe and had their shrimp and grits, and it was just absolutely outstanding. So when I was there in September, of course I made my way over to the cafe, and lo and behold, I got a taste of their shrimp and grits. And being raised on grits, I was a little bit embarrassed because I had been eating Albers for so long, and I could taste the different texture and found out they were the actual grits from South Carolina, or from the southeastern part of the United States. So, being me, I had to have a bag, so I ordered them, and there they are, the Carolina Plantation Stone Ground Grits. These are not your traditional grits. They take anywhere from 30, 45, maybe up to an hour to prepare, and the outcome is just tremendous. The flavor, you can't beat it. So those are my grits, and then let's kind of walk through our other ingredients here. We got our little celery. I've got some green onions. There's kind of my little trinity that I'll be making kind of a roux or my sauce. I don't have any whole thyme, so I decided to just use my old traditional thyme in the jar. There's onions, there's bell peppers. Let's kind of walk back over here. Here's the flour that I'll be using for my roux that I'll make the sauce with. A little bit of butter, because I love butter. Butter will go into the grits. There's black pepper, and then here's my Tony Cacheret's seasoning. I like that. It's a little bit on the salty side, but I don't use salt when I cook. Instead, I just use Tony Cacheret's. And then there's some paprika. See that? There's my chicken broth. I need that for my stock, again, bring my roux up once it's up, and I actually cook it. That's going to be my gravy for the grits, and some good old half and half. Because with these grits, believe it or not, a little bit goes a long way. So it's kind of a 4-to-1 ratio. Got to be critical there. You don't want them too stiff. You don't want them too loose. So the recipe calls for 4-to-1. You know, you got to really work them, because at first when you put everything in, you wonder how in the heck is it going to build to the consistency that you want. But just give it some time and follow the instructions that come on the bag, and you'll be good to go. And if you're used to making grits, you kind of already understand the process. So you just got to be patient. Again, these are not your Alber's grits where you can knock out in 10-15 minutes. Okay, then there's my cheddar cheese that'll be inside the grits as well. There's some parsley I'll be using to top it off. Now here's some shrimp that I prepared, and I put a little paprika in there, and those are just jumbo shrimp, and you'll see the finished product once they come out. And here's going to be the killer that I think, which is my bacon that I'm going to use to top off the grits. And this bacon was custom cut. I went down to my meat market, and I didn't want the regular bacon, even though they have some great bacon. I did not want the bacon in the store, because it just doesn't have the thickness that I was looking for this particular dish. So my meat guy, he simply cut it, and I don't know if you can see the thickness here, but these are about a good 1/4 of an inch thick, which is perfect. Now this bacon ran me about $8 a pound, but I didn't mind it, because again, this is a special dish, and it was more important that I have the thickness than worry about trying to get a $5, $6 pack of bacon, and it's about as thin as a piece of paper. So for the extra $2, well worth it. These are the ingredients, and I'll be coming back with you shortly. We'll kind of walk you through step by step, but I just wanted to give you a brief introduction of how we're going to make it, what our game plan is, my famous pot. I just love this pot. And I'll be back with you shortly, and we'll walk through the step-by-step process. Okay, we're going to start step number 1, which is going to be obviously turning on the fire. Now this thing has to heat up, so I'm going to turn my fire up high and let this just kind of sit and get that going. And then I'll pull over here to my bacon. Here's my bacon, and I'm going to pull off 5, maybe 6 pieces. And I'm going to cut that down, because this is going to be actually for the top of the crumbly part of the dish. But it starts with some great bacon. See, that's all I'm going to do is just cube that out, and then I'm going to render it down and show you how that's prepared. Okay? Okay, now most people that know when you're cutting meat, it's better that it's cold, and this bacon is nice and cold, so it'll cut well. And then I've got my good old-fashioned sharp knife, and I'll be able to slide right through that like butter, and we'll cube it. Okay, so I just tested my pot, my pan rather, my skillet I should say, not a pan, it's a skillet, and the bacon is ready. You can see it sizzling, so I'm going to dump this in there, and I'm going to just get a handful at a time because the board's not going to fit. Again, this is about 4 or 5 pieces of thick bacon, and the bacon is cut. The bacon is cut about, I think I did him about 1/4 of an inch. That's what I told him I wanted it. Okay, now my bacon is all in my skillet, and it's starting to cook. And the thing I love about that black skillet is it retains heat better than most pots. And so you don't need a high heat per se. You need to just get the skillet hot, and then you're off to the races. If you have a regular skillet, that will work as well. But again, I like to use these skillets when I cook traditional recipes. And shrimp and grits is a real basic recipe. There's not a right or wrong way. You just do whatever you feel like doing and add your own variation, which I'm going to be doing myself. But you may want to add your own components. You may want to use turkey bacon. I don't know. You may want to use vegan bacon. I'm using good old traditional bacon that came from the pork. And let me just give it a stir. Okay, I'm going to give this a stir here. I'm going to let that cook down, because I'm going to need the sauce, not the sauce, I'm going to need the bacon fat for my roux. But I do not want the bacon to burn, because again, this will be going on top of the finished product. So instead of having a strip of bacon, you're going to have chunks of bacon that will be on top of the dish. Okay, so let's turn the fire down, and then we'll come back and go to the other process. Okay, I wanted to show you this process here. You can see how the bacon is cooked and rendered down, because again, I'm going to need that oil for my roux, which I'll be seasoning my trinity, the onions, peppers, celery, and then I add my flour and build the base up, because again, this base will be like the gravy that goes over the grits. But I just wanted to show you how that bacon has to get almost crunchy and crumbly. Not burn. You got to be careful and do not burn the bacon. That's why again I decided to go with a quality piece of bacon so that it could deal with the heat and not crumble up. And then I got some other bacon here just to give you an idea of how well it cooks up. It's almost like a steak. It's so darn thick. But it does not crumble, it doesn't burn. It just simply cooks, and I have it on a very slow heat. So just want to give you an example of where you should be in your process. Don't try to rush it, because then you'll have burnt bacon. Alright, I've taken the bacon out, and I got to hurry up with the roux because I don't want the oil to burn. But just a quick pointer, you can see there's my bacon. I've got it in a absorbent towel. You can drain it however you wish, but it has the color that I'm looking for, and because it's a quality bacon, you have oil, but you don't have as much as if you had a lesser brand bacon. You'd probably have almost a half to 3/4 of a cup of oil. You need about maybe 1/3 or so, maybe 1/4 for the roux, and this is about maybe like 1/3 of a cup, and that's going to be fine, because again, I'm going to build it up. The trick to the roux and the bacon and the rendering is you do not want it, you don't want a lot of grease, because then you're going to have a greasy roux or a greasy sauce. Okay, so I'm going to put in my Trinity and soften that up. The fire is still hot. That's the advantage of using a quality pot or a skillet. And I'm just going to work this around. Celery. Going to stir it. And just let it go. Let that get nice and soft, and then I'll add my flour and build my roux. As you can see, this is plenty. This is actually going to be a large portion, because I'll be needing to serve about maybe 5 to 6, 7 people with this recipe. And again, because I do not have any fresh thyme, I'm going to eyeball it. Sprinkle a little bit in there. Good old French thyme. Always necessary with Louisiana cooking. That's about a teaspoon that I've used. Okay, wish that around. Come back. So, all right. There's, you can smell it too. It smells outstanding, man. Okay, so we'll let that just simmer down. Then we'll come back and we'll build the roux. Be right back. I didn't want to use whole garlic or chopped garlic because it just ran short on time, so I pulled out some minced garlic. Worked fine. I put about a tablespoon of that in there, and now we're ready to start the flour process. And I like to whisk my gravy. If any of you are used to making gravy, you kind of understand the process and you don't panic. But the one thing you do not want are a lot of lumps. So here I've got about quarter to a half a cup, which might be a little more than I need. So I'm going to put maybe half of this in here, sprinkle it in. Okay, so I'm going to mix it up. I'll stir it. And what I want to do is get this kind of brownish, nice and brown. And once that happens, then I'll be ready to add in my liquid. But right now I just don't want to cook it down. I want to brown it and not burn it. The last thing you want is some burned roux. Okay, I've just added in some broth. I put about 2 cups in. And again, most of you know who make gravy. I like to always have water as a sidekick, because as I build my gravy up and thicken it, this is kind of thick right now, but it's going to get a lot thicker. So I'm going to need to thin that out so it's not too gooey and there's no lumps, because that's part of your process. You just don't rush it. You got to build it, and you just got to keep stirring it. And you can feel it thickening even as I'm stirring. But you can see all those nice herbs have come together, and that's going to give you the taste. And then once I've dumped my shrimp in for the finished touch, we'll be ready to go. So I'm going to start my grits here in just a second. Okay, the roux is going outstanding. I just can't believe it. It seems like it's thin, but it's really not. It's going to be perfect because I still have to add the shrimp in, and I'm letting this cook down. And I'm going to let it go because I need to start on the grits. Now, the issue with the grits, remember what I told you, it's a 4-to-1 ratio. I started to use a larger pot, but I'm going to go with a regular saucepan like this. And I'm going to do some chicken broth, a combination of chicken broth, a little bit of water, and some half and half. And then I'll build in my, I'll mix in my grits. So I'll be right back with you, but we're getting there. Where's my bacon? It's drained off. God, it looks good. Perfect. And my shrimp is just itching to get its feet wet in the roux. I'm almost there. Another 5 minutes I'll be dumping this liquid broth. Again, it's nothing but chicken stock, some half and half, just a little bit of water, about 4 cups. The recipe calls for 4-to-1. There's my cup of grits, and you can see how coarse they are. But we're going to whisk those in, and they've got to go for about an hour to build up. but we'll probably go maybe, I don't know, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Boy, that gravy is coming along real well. As a matter of fact, I hear shrimp calling, so I'm going to go in and dump those in, and we'll continue to keep building this. So let's put this in. Just dump it in, and just want to bring that to the cooking, and see it fills out the top of the lip. Gravy's perfect. We'll come right back, let that cook, because this is going to go on top of the grits. Okay, just loosen those up and let them cook. Shrimp cooks very quick, so can't really overcook them. You just have to watch it with your gravy. And my mixture is starting to heat up. It'll come to a boil here, then I'll whisk in the grits. Alright, back at the shrimp mixture. Now you can see how it's built up. That's a little fire coming from the pan. Blow that out. And what I did is, just so that you're aware, you may do the same. Again, season to taste. I don't use a lot of salt because the Tony Cacheret's has more than enough salt, but it gives me that nice country kick that I'm looking for from my Louisiana dishes. I just added some pepper, milled in some pepper, and it tastes outstanding. You can taste all the ingredients: the thyme, the celery, the onions, and then the seafood stock from the shrimp is just great. And this is actually ready to go, but I'm gonna let this simmer for about a half an hour, because the grits are going to take time to build up. My water's starting to boil over there. That's that butter melting down. I'll be whisking in grits in a second, but I just wanted to show you what your look is going to be once you put your shrimp in, and that shrimp looks outstanding. The taste is better than I anticipated, so I'm very pleased with the taste, and we'll be right back with you. Okay, back to the shrimp again. I just added a little bit of cut green onions because I wanted to give it a little bit of extra taste and a different layer, and so I took about half of it. I cut up maybe 7 or 8 pieces of green onion, and so I'll be using some inside for the gravy, and then the other will be used to top off the dish. But again, I wanted to show you this process. I'm going to have to add a little bit of water to this gravy, because you maybe can't see it, but it's starting to get nice and thick and creamy. Alright, I added just a little bit of water in here, so it's thin right now, but it'll build back up. Now back to my grits. I just whisked the grits in, and you can't see it right now because they're still relatively thin, and part of the process is they will thicken up. I got to keep stirring these. I'm going to bring this fire down, and I've got some good old trusted water off to the side, because I'll be needing that to build them up so they're not too thick, because again, this process calls for an hour on the recipe, but I'm going to go about 40 minutes. So we'll be back here in about a half an hour and give you another. Okay, so here's the finished product, and it is outstanding. We've got our grits, our shrimp. Now I put the cheese, I kind of sprinkled on. I did add some cheese into the grit mixture, but you could see how it's going to firm up. And then I topped it off with a little bacon, green onions, and a little bit of parsley. And there you go. That's our shrimp and grits presentation, Southern style, aka down home Louisiana. And it is an outstanding dish and very filling. So you can use this for breakfast, for dinner, for lunch, whatever your pleasure might be. Takes a little time to make. Grits took about 35-40 minutes, but it's an excellent presentation, and I'm getting ready to dig in and enjoy it because it looks outstanding. Thank you for watching. Like if you like it, dislike if you dislike it, but I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video, and leave any comments you might think would be helpful for people who are trying to knock out this dish. Thank you.